In the house, drinking his espresso. I love how you had to just rub that in my face, Marc Farzetta, that you're having another shot of espresso. What's that, your third since I talked to you at 6:20?
It's only my second. Come on now. There's no reason to indulge that much. No, it's just my second. It's just my second. No worries there, my friend.
See, that's what it is. Now that you're fixing up your home studio and you're you got to get this done. I mean, the brick wall thing, I love it, Marc Farzetta. It's very plain, but I'm looking for the excitement of the Farzy show.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is killing me right now because, like, if I was to turn the camera a little bit, it's like, you know those hostage videos? Like, you know, that's basically what the backdrop looks like right now. It just looks like I've been kidnapped. I'm being held against my will. I have to blink Morse code to let you know I'm okay, and they're feeding me well, whatever. That's what it looks like right now. So I'm very much looking forward to building the new studio in the new house, and it can't happen fast enough. We have some things being taken care of down in the area. We're going to build the studio. So once that gets done, I look forward to actually building a very luxurious studio for myself.
I was thinking you look more like the host of Unsolved Mysteries.
Robert Stack?
Yes!
You know Robert Stack?
I'm going to have a stack on you.
If you or anyone else have any information as to the whereabouts of this young boy, please, you can help solve the mystery.
They got to bring that show back. Like, Netflix got to do it or something.
Well, they did. They did bring it back, but it wasn't with Robert Stack because, you know, like, he died and stuff. But
yeah. Well, obviously.
They brought it back, and I watched it, and it brought me right back to, like, I think it was on right after Rescue 911 with William Shatner, and me and my family would be eating our pork chops, and we'd be, like, glancing at the TV because unlike my wife's house, me growing up, we always had the TV on. Like, we always had the TV on, whether it was a game, whether it was Rescue 911, whether it was TGIF, of course, whatever it might have been, we always had the TV on. We did not communicate a lot as a family until later in life.
My family don't communicate here. We communicate. We watch an episode of Seinfeld, and then we communicate.
There you go. Very nice.
So when the classic comes on, by the way, didn't the 49ers loss to the NFC Championship game feel like a George Costanza moment at times?
It did a little bit in that if I was the 49ers and I was already on my third quarterback and had to go to my fourth quarterback and then had to go to a running back to throw a pass, I would have definitely felt like, we're living in a society. We should act in a civilized manner. That's the way I would look at it if I was a San Francisco 49ers fan, which I'm not.
You know what the best part about that episode is? After he flips out, the guy goes, "Oh, sorry about the phone." Oh, yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah,
we're all good. That is still life today in 2023. But sure. Marc Farzetta, I do have to ask you, because we kind of talked about this on your show. Did you care that the Eagles had an easy path to the Super Bowl?
No. Here's where I usually stand on leading up, like, for instance, the Super Bowl. Now, Patrick Mahomes is playing in the Super Bowl, so I don't want to give the wrong impression. But let's just say that Patrick Mahomes' high ankle sprain was a lot more serious. Let's just live in that world for 1 second because that's the easiest comparison to make here. I'm not the guy that goes, man, I really hope he plays because otherwise it won't count as much. Like, I'm not that guy. Like, I never look at the opposing team and go, man, I wish they were better. Like, I wish they could, be healthy, and I wish everyone could I wish they could trade for, like, Jerry Rice in his prime to play with Patrick Mahomes. I'm not that guy. But in a game, I never want to see guys knocked out. I wanted to see Brock Purdy get beat in that game. I didn't want to see him get hurt in that game. No one's rooting for injury. No one in a civilized society is rooting for injury. So I don't care that it was made easier as the game went on. I don't care about that. I think the Eagles made their bed. The Eagles could have been a team going into this season that the acquisition of Hassan Reddick didn't work out. They could have been a team in that getting Jordan Davis, in a way, he missed a lot of time with injury. That didn't work out. It could have been a team where A.J. Brown didn't work out. It did. It could have been a team where Jalen Hurts didn't nearly prove that he was a franchise quarterback like he did this season. That could have all went. Nick Sirianni, as a second year as a head coach, could have went in the tank and been terrible. It didn't. It went the complete opposite way. They weren't one of the teams like the Commanders that you could just kick around. They weren't a bottom-feeding team. They dominated the schedule that was in front of them. They lost one game with Jalen Hurts as their starting quarterback. They have gone into the playoffs and dominated in the playoffs. I don't care how you want to describe the road that they took to get here. The fact is that they got here. And the league, as we hear every single game, every single week, every single season, it's the parity in the league is incredible. The Eagles won NFL football games. That's not an easy thing to do, and they did it at an all-time franchise high, and now they're about to play in the biggest game of the year, the Super Bowl. So I don't give a damn how you want to describe the road they took to get there, whether or not it was bumpy, whatever, whether or not there was roadblocks. The fact of the matter is they still hit cruise control on that road, and they made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was, how can I put it? It's like Robert Frost, the road not taken, but they did take it.
Right, right.
They took the right road. So they took the straight path instead of the curvy one. Right. And you got to give the Eagles a ton of credit for that. I got to get into this Nick Sirianni thing. I'm glad you pointed this out. So last year, I'm covering the Ravens-Chargers. It's week 6. Eagles are like 2-4. They lost to Tampa that Thursday night. And I was talking to probably one of the bigger, I will not say his name out of respect, but I was talking to one of the bigger NFL people out there. And we were having a conversation before the game, eating our crab cakes, our Maryland crab cakes, by the way.
Oh, yeah, delicious.
Marc Farzetta. And I happened to bring up the Eagles and Nick Sirianni. And this is what he told me. People were telling me, people were telling him. He's out of his gourd. He's out of his league. I don't know if he's going to last the year. And I'm like, whoa. Like, this is really bad. Because remember how bad they were? And they just looked out of it. Then I saw him again the second time I covered the Ravens last year, Sunday Night Football. And he said, they don't want to admit this, but he delegated to Shane Steichen. He delegated the play calling duties to him, which made a lot of sense. And they said, he figured out how to delegate stuff. He's a good CEO. He knows how to manage things, and he knows now. I think everybody's bought into what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And they were only like, I want to say they were 5 and this was after the Giants lost last year in week 14, the bad Giants loss. So I'm like, okay, maybe this guy does know what he's doing. And turns out they've only lost I think he's only lost 4 games, and Jalen Hurts has only lost 2 games since then.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I have learned as I have gotten a little older, okay? And here's what I think I've gained through my life experience. That oftentimes brilliance follows crazy. A lot of times when you're looking at something from the outside and looking in, you might go, initially, that's crazy. And then maybe a week or 2 later, it's like, oh, wait, that was brilliant. And Nick Sirianni's flower power speech. Look, you can look at the introductory press conference from Nick Sirianni, and I know a lot of people watched that and went, is this a joke? Like, this is a joke. This guy's going to stand in the locker room and try to command that in front of professional Okay. All right, let me know when the real head coach gets here, because whoever this guy is, that's not it. And I know people had that, and I did not like it. It definitely made me nervous that guy was going to have to come up with whether or not you were going to go for it in a 4th down situation but he figured it out. And then the flower power speech happened, and I went, this guy is nuts. This guy is crazy. How do you identify? Like, there's a lot of things that have roots that aren't flowers. Okay, like you can, like an oak tree. An oak tree is a strong, thing that you can associate with a football player. This guy's talking about daisies. Like that. What are you talking? What? You serious?
He's pushing daisies.
He's pushing daisies. And all of a sudden, this team responded to that. Now, the schedule got easier, fine. But again, you can only play who's in front of you. This team responded to it. From what I heard coming out of the locker room, a lot of those players, maybe at first they just listened to it and went, okay, yeah, sure, that makes sense. Build strong roots. And maybe the speech itself didn't hit home, but the reaction to the speech really hit home. And I remember, I'm going to give him credit because he had a really interesting take on it. I had Mike Sealski on my show from the Inquirer, and he said, you know what? Here's the thing. I don't know how to identify with a 24-year-old, 25-year-old professional athlete. I'm not in that locker room the way Nick Sirianni's in that locker room. I don't know what's hitting close to home for them. I don't know what's driving home messages for them. But for whatever reason, Nick Sirianni, and this is before the Eagles went on the win. It was that week we had this conversation. And I thought, that's an interesting take, and he's right. We're not a member of that locker room. We might go into the locker room. But the way that team responded to not just the speech, but the way that speech was perceived by the fan base, by the media, that rallied them. And that said, basically their coach was trying to make an honest point to them, and everyone was putting their money, again, another Seinfeld reference, I'm out, middle of the table, saying, I'm out of this. And the team rallied around the head coach from that point on, and they have played hard for this guy. They have played through injury for each other. No better example than Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce trying to do the same thing over the last couple of years. Jalen Hurts coming back the way he's come back from his shoulder injury. This guy has captured this locker room and now captured this city with a Super Bowl run. And it is very impressive over the last 2 years to watch the maturation process as a head coach from Nick Sirianni. It has been amazing to watch.
So when the Favre speech came out, I remember I was on with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, and I asked Mike Gill, and I'm going to ask you this. Have you ever seen The Internship with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn?
I haven't seen it all the way through, but okay.
Did you see the part where they're playing Quidditch?
Yes.
And when they make the speech, and they say, Bill Gates, they called him a maniac. Yeah, I don't think anybody ever called. I just called him a maniac. That's what I feel like Nick Sirianni's Flower speech was. And for some reason, it worked. You can't explain it, but that was the moment that got that team together to win the Google jobs. And that's how, it's weird, right? It's how, I think if I was in there, if I would have heard that speech, I'd be the guy laughing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I would have responded to it, but I'm like, is this guy for real here? Like, what's this guy's deal? But it worked. And there's quirky stuff Nick does I really like. And as a coach myself, obviously not at the NFL level, but when they won on Sunday night, Nick Sirianni was in the locker room, in amongst our presence, Marc Farzetta. And I just happened to watch him. He's going to Reed Blankenship's locker, high-fiving him, hugging him. Josh Jobe, Zach McPherson, James Bradbury, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph. He's just going all to them, talking to them, hugging them, being like, hey, we did it. Guys, we won. We're going to Super Bowl. He was embracing the moment with his players. And I like that in a coach. I respect that. I haven't, obviously with the pandemic, you haven't seen too many locker rooms, too many champions. I know guys like Andy Reid sort of do that sort of thing, but I don't remember too many coaches doing it, but I could be wrong.
I just think the guy knows how to connect with everyone. I think that his best quality is being this is going to sound so hokey, but we're talking about Nick Sirianni. He is a people person. There is a number of things that he does that if we watched it in a movie, we would go, come on, this is way too dramatic. This is way too high school Harry. This is ridiculous. But when it comes to wearing a Jalen Hurts t-shirt, a Brandon Graham t-shirt, dressing up as Jalen Hurts for Halloween like he did a year ago, okay? Whether it's learning the fight song to Miles Sanders' high school football team, whatever it might be, that's all stuff that if we see in a movie, we'd be like, okay, this is a Lifetime movie. This is stupid. But he did that. It resonated with these players. He almost idolizes his players as a fan would, but then also knows how to coach them in the same breath. That's an incredible thing. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson talks crap to his head coach at practice, and his head coach has to talk, hey, look, I'm on your side too. I'm the head coach of the football team that includes defense. And Chauncey Gardner's like, I don't care about that. And then he just keeps talking trash. And the coach knows how to take that. This guy just knows what makes each member of this team, not just the team as a whole, but each member of this team, he knows what makes them tick. And that's what we talk about. When we talk about like great coordinators, for instance, they look at what a player can do. Like Jim Johnson is the perfect example. This is a defensive coordinator for the Eagles. Like when he watched Jeremiah Trotter throughout his career, okay, he would start inching him up closer and closer as his career went on to the line of scrimmage and make him a third D tackle, as I know some of Trotter's teammates would tease him later in his career. But that's what he started to get good at. Brian Dawkins, as his career went on, started to use him in a way that made him play in the box more. So that was all stuff. You watched guys and you watched their careers go and you said, all right, this is still what they do well. I'm going to exploit the hell out of that so I get the best out of them. Personality-wise, I think Nick Sirianni is able to identify that thing with each player, knowing what makes them tick and get the most out of them each and every week. A guy like Reed Blankenship, that's why he's going to his locker. A guy like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, different elk, of course, than a guy like Reed Blankenship. But you're talking about a nickel corner who came in here to play safety for the first time since college, led the league in interceptions by the time the regular season ended, and he probably would have had the lone lead in interceptions if he never got hurt. He comes in and has a Pro Bowl caliber year in that regard. Offense or defense, this guy knows how to connect to his players. And watching that, I think, is a huge feather in the cap for guys that want to identify with their players on a personal level, not just a football level.
It's just crazy all the things we got on Nick Sirianni about. And one of them was his pre-draft interviews, right? You're playing basketball with him. See, if Nick Sirianni said to me, I could beat your you-know-what in basketball, Marc Farzetta, I'd be like, let's go.
Yeah.
And, I feel like I would be a perfect Nick Sirianni draft pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would pass the test. I'd be like, you think you could beat me in something? I'll play hand grenades with you. I don't care. We'll see who jumps first.
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
Scissors, baby. Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, exactly. Rock, paper, scissors. See, to me, by the way, that's genius because you can learn so much about somebody and how seriously they treat things. I feel like Nick Sirianni's that guy. He eats breakfast more competitively than his wife, than his daughters. He just seems to me like he's that type of guy. And that's what I like about him. I like the fact that everything is a big deal. The press conference is a big deal. How he handles the press conference, how he eats his cereal, how he coaches a football team. And I feel like his players are about. That's why they're so dominant. I feel like he just gets this team ready every single week to play a football game, especially when there's a big game on the line. The Eagles looked far and away the better team and the more prepared team than San Francisco on Sunday.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. For the San Francisco 49ers fans that are crying over their Dungeness crabs, right, that are yelling at people going to Fisherman's Wharf to take pictures with the SEALs, for all those people, I'll just say this. You had the number one defense in the NFL, and you went up against an MVP candidate, at least the best quarterback in the NFC this year in Jalen Hurts. And he played maybe his worst game in quite some time, and the Eagles offense still put up 31 points on you. What are you crying about here? That's ridiculous. And to watch that game unfold the way it did, and to still see the Eagles dominate another playoff game is something that I'll never forget. I will never forget. I mean, it didn't unfold the way you might have wanted it to, as far as, not wanting to see guys get hurt throughout a game, of course, but your defense played a healthy football game and still had their tails handed to them. You look at an offense that allowed less than 17 points per game during the regular season. I think it was 16.7 points per game, the number one defense in the NFL in that regard, and yards, by the way, number one defense. And they put up that kind of performance? And played undisciplined football? You want to cry about penalties, especially on that 14-play, 75-yard drive the Eagles used to reestablish their momentum in that game after the Christian McCaffrey touchdown? Be upset with your defensive players who had holding, illegal hands to the face. What else did they have here?
Unnecessary roughness.
Unnecessary roughness was another one. This is a disciplined defense that played wildly undisciplined on that drive, but you want to blame the refs on that? Go back and watch that drive. Those were legitimate penalties. And, look, the one thing people can really be upset about is the Devontae Smith catch that set up the touchdown, right? Well, what about Kyle Shanahan? Once you see a guy get up and sprint to the line, shouldn't you know to either, have your hand on that challenge flag because somebody upstairs has got to tell you, throw that flag. They couldn't get it in time. So credit to the Eagles for being smart enough to make that play. And shame on Kyle Shanahan for not throwing that flag on it.
I tweeted that immediately. I said, if you want to complain, that's not a catch. And keep in mind, it wasn't just 49ers fans in my mentions because, obviously I'm an NFL writer, so I get fans from all over the place. I have Bills fans saying it. Yeah, hey, that's not a catch, right? I said, yes, I understand that. But your vitriol's at the wrong people. You got to start blaming the great Kyle Shanahan and blame the 49ers for not throwing the challenge flag. And then all of a sudden I get Kevin Seifert of ESPN, who hates the Eagles, hates them. He's a Vikings writer. I know he hates them personally. For him to say, well, the NFL could have stopped the game, that's an option too. I'm like, no, it's not.
What?
It's the first quarter.
You know the rules?
Yeah, come on, man. Like, are you that? are you still that bitter over 5 years ago? I don't get it. And then I saw one 49ers writer, and I called him out. I tweeting about how Purdy Turdy or something. He thought that was terrible. He put
my God.
Snake Class Eagles fans. I'm like, you do know that's like G rated compared to what they normally do, right?
Yeah, like what do you want us to do? Like sip tea with our pinkies in the air and be like, Brock Purdy is not a very good quarterback. Oh, you got him there. That was a good humdinger. Like what the? Like seriously? How about the Brocky BS we had to see? Like first off, don't ever. Like I know it's hokey. Speaking of hokey things. It's a movie prop, okay? But it has become a symbol of Philadelphia. It really has. Yes, we know Rocky wasn't real. Thank you for that breaking news.
We're all aware of that. By the way, they filmed how many Rocky and Creed movies here?
Yeah. Brocky doesn't even get one sequel. How about that? Okay? Anyway, but you made a mockery of the movie poster. Don't make a mockery of the movie poster in Philadelphia. Don't put your stupid T-shirt on Rocky. Bad things are going to happen. The Minnesota Vikings should have put out a press release to everyone across the NFL. Don't mess with the Art Museum steps. Don't mess with the Rocky statue. Bad things will happen to you and your football team if that's what you do.
I mean, we learned the hard way in this city. We decided to make buildings bigger than the Billy Penn statue, and we didn't win. And what happens when we build the Comcast building? Oh, we're going to put Billy Penn on the top. What happens? In a span of 4 months, the Philadelphia Soul win the AFL, and then the Phillies win the World Series. We learned.
We learned, baby. We learned. We know what we're doing here in the city now. We know what we're doing. The Bacon brothers helped us out with that. We appreciate that. But, everything else is going to be gravy after this because of where Billy Penn's at.
Exactly. And maybe that's why the Eagles have been to 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. Remember Marc Farzetta when they went in 2004? My dad always likes to tell me this story because when they went, he goes, embellish it. It might be another 24 years before they go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I was down there, Jeff. I was down at City Hall on Sunday night.
Ooh,
it was incredible. I mean, look, I consider what we do to be a public service. Like if you're a sports talker, I think you owe it to the public. You owe it to the fan base that you speak to every day to make sure that their rights as a fan are always represented. Their grievances as fans are always represented. Their emotion, their highs and lows are always represented by what we talk about. To be down there and see Philadelphia in that state of euphoria. I said it in 2008, and that was the first championship of my lifetime. The Sixers won when I was like 6 months old, so I can't count that. But never has Philadelphia, I said it in 2008, I'll say it again after a moment like we experienced Sunday night. Never has Philadelphia been more like the city of brotherly love than when the Phillies won in 2008, when the Eagles won in 2017, and hopefully the Eagles will give us again coming up in 2 weeks. That is the moment we are most like the city of brotherly love, when our sports teams are winning and we're literally all out there on Broad Street, on Market, right by City Hall or Frankfurt and Cottman, and everyone is just hugging, embracing, high-fiving, climbing monuments, climbing poles, having themselves a great time, smiles on everybody's faces, people getting engaged. It's absolutely incredible. That is beautiful. And to see that Sunday night was great. I wish my connection to the JAKIB Media postgame show was a little bit clearer, but unfortunately, when you got thousands of people in one area, it doesn't work out that well. So it was great. It was absolutely incredible. And to see that is a great reminder of why we do what we do, my friend.
You know what? I got that moment when the Eagles won in 17. So, well, 18 technically. When the Super Bowl happened.
Understood.
But I remember, I still remember that parade. I went to the Reading Terminal Market, had to go to the Knicks. Didn't have to wait long because I'm smart. I got there early. Got my Knicks. I'm like, all right, this is going to be a great day no matter what. And boy, was it a great day. My only regret was I was on, you know what? I forget where I was because I went all over the place that day. But I didn't try to go near the art museum or anything like that. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to park it right by City Hall. That's where I did. See, I remember where I was now. So anyway, my biggest regret was I wish I would have went to Citizens Bank Park and just went there, because that's where all the fun looked like it was going to. Now, I wouldn't have saw most of the parade, but that's okay. I would have saw Jason Kelsey in the Monroe's costume first. And I'm thinking as a media guy here, not as a fan.
Right.
And, I wanted to go regardless. I said, you know what? I went I went to the Phillies parade. I got to go to this one. I'm going to have some fun with it. I'm going to take some videos for CBS and do all that. I got guys falling off poles. I got guys so trashed. It was great. Like, CBS was eating it up. They're like, dude, like, you're in the hubbub. I'm like, yeah, and here's the thing. I'm not one of those guys, look what I'm doing. I'm like, no, I'm just taking pictures of other people doing silly stuff. So, but, yeah, I mean, that first one was the party of the millennium, right? I don't know what this one will be, because if they win, it's going to be a big party, but it just feels like they were the best and they accomplished it. It wasn't the underdog thing. They were by far the best team, and we're not used to that in Philadelphia.
No, not at all. I was having that same thought. Like, it does feel like the Eagles have, and look, this isn't to say that the road hasn't had its bumps, Jalen Hurts getting hurt, whatever, but in terms of comparing it to every other Eagles season or an Eagles season like the Super Bowl season, this has been cruise control. This has been a nicely paved driveway. It hasn't even been a road. It's been great. So to get to the mountaintop after that is almost expected. Nick Foles against Tom Brady, you didn't expect to win that Super Bowl. If I tell you before that game, Tom Brady would throw for whatever it was, like 500 yards.
505 yards.
I'm not thinking you win that game. The Eagles won that game. And if they win again this time around, obviously it's going to be an incredible, incredible experience, an incredible time at the celebration and at the parade a couple of days later. But for me, I think it will be more expected because of what you got going into this game.
That day was the Jeff Kerr Save Receipts game, Super Bowl 52, because I am still one of the biggest believers in Nick Foles on this planet. And I said when Carson went down, this team won't miss a beat. I went on my show right after it, and I'm like, guys, and I talked to my fans on Facebook so long all year. I'm like, guys, it's going to be all right. They're going to win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. They are going to the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Trust me on this. And it kind of got everybody riled up. Like, they're like, oh my God, if he thinks it, maybe it can happen. And people were doubting. Of course. And, I tried to calm them down with the whole Nick Foles, Nate Sudfeld stuff. I said, guys, it's going to be all right. They're still a really good team. They're a very good team. And you know what? They were a very good team. And when Nick Foles won that Super Bowl, I didn't do a post-game show, obviously, because I had to do so much for my main job. But I went on that Facebook Live that next day, and I'd never done this, but I own Eagles stuff. I own a lot of NFL stuff. I own a lot of Chiefs stuff. I got a lot of Ravens stuff. But I wore my Home Dog's Gonna Eat shirt that Lane Johnson got for me. Him and Chris Long got for me. And I just went off, and I put on every single I even trashed my coworkers. One of our draft guys was like, and he really knows a lot about football. He's like, Tyrod Taylor can run circles around Nick Foles. I'm like, where you at now? Tyrod Taylor will never sniff a Super Bowl. Nick Foles is a Super Bowl MVP. It was such a great moment. Like those couple days, and I really hope Eagles fans get to soak in this moment in Glendale. Win or lose, I think this might be one of the best teams the Eagles ever had.
1,000. I mean, you're talking about teams that had Reggie White on them, and this team outsacked that team. You're talking about teams that obviously had great runs in the first 13 games of 2017 with Carson Wentz playing at the level that he was playing at. The obvious Randall years in the 80s and early 90s. You can look at that. You can look back on the 1960 championship team. I will say 48-49. It's hard to top it.
They'll give them a run for their money.
Yeah, that's hard. Back-to-back NFL championships. We can't forget the 48-49 team. So you could go back pretty far with this. But, man, you talk about what they put on the table this year. It is unmatched from what we have seen before in terms of regular season and, to this point, playoff success.
39 rushing touchdowns this season. They beat the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, their old team.
I saw that. I saw no one knew who the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets were. And I was like, how could you forget? Was it the blowout of the Detroit Lions? Was that the game that they wore the Frankfurt Yellow Jacket with Kevin Cobb getting his first NFL snaps after they had, I think Kevin Curtis had 200 yards receiving, whatever it was. And that was an incredible game. And the Eagles wore the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets jerseys. Everybody was pissed because it wasn't Kelly Green.
I have one.
You have the Kevin. What do you have? Westbrook?
I have McNabb.
You have McNabb. Okay. But for me, I'll never forget that. And then listening to people not realize who the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets were, I thought was hysterical. But they were a historically incredible team throughout this year. Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, little spoiler, I think they get the cherry on top, the massive cherry on top by beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
My first high school football game I covered for Daily Local, and this was 10 years ago, Downtown East played at Frankfurt, and they played at that stadium. And I just walked around in awe. I'm like, wow, a pro football team played here. And someone's like, oh, it was 100 years ago. I'm like, I don't care. Pro football team played here. I'm like, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets played here. I thought it was really cool. And that's how the Eagles came to be. Everybody forgets the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, who used to play 20, 21 games in the season because they could not play on Sundays because of Philadelphia. It's fascinating if you read about the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, by the way. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe the Eagles would still be the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets if, the team basically – I guess they kind of went bankrupt. I don't know. There's still, different recollections of that story.
Could you imagine a team in Frankfurt? There's just – that would be like Green Bay, Wisconsin, but smaller. You know what I mean? That would be
Frankfurt, Pennsylvania, the capital of football.
Yeah, right. Title town.
Yeah, can you imagine just us going to a game in Frankfurt and complaining because we're on Roosevelt Boulevard?
Oh my God, that'd be so beautiful.
That'd be so. Oh my God, yeah. You'd have to obviously Frankfurt would be a lot different neighborhood than it is now, but
little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But anyway, Marc Farzetta, my friend, this was a great time. I love talking sports. TGIF, Unsolved Mysteries, whatever the heck we talk about. By the way, you guys got to tune into the Farzy Show, and you better tune into the JAKIB pregame show, because if you don't, our bills don't get paid.
Yeah. So true. Still fighting.
Are you still fighting that cold?
For 2 weeks now, man. 2 weeks. But how it works is you send your kids to the preschool, and then they just get sick. They get a little bit of an education and a whole lot of germs, and then they bring it home, and that's the way it goes down, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm still fighting it, brother.
Yeah, I don't even want to call the cold last week. So it's funny. My one friend's like, why don't you take an allergy pill? I'm like, you think it's really allergy? So well, it is different wear. And he said that's what cured him. I took an allergy pill. I was gone.
There you go.
Maybe it was allergy because I wasn't sick. It was the weirdest thing.
We'll diagnose it. We'll talk football. We'll talk TGIF. We'll talk about what cures our allergies and our colds, and we'll just set you up. That's how we'll do it.
And we're not real doctors here, so don't listen to everything we tell you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I love when people want to play doctor. They want to play this. They want to play that. Social media, you can play anything.
Yeah. Oh, God. Thank God for Google. Why do we even need school anymore? Or books?
WebMD, yeah. What did Mr. Feeney used to say on TGIF? You have all this knowledge at your fingertips, and you care about Donkey Kong, or I forget how he worded it.
Yeah. No, it was something like that. Totally, something like that. Oh my God, you know what I think of? I think of the line from Sebastian Maniscalco where he's just I think about being a communications major and trying to talk about health. It's just no, don't go to the communications major. Go to somebody who actually studied in school, please. Go to somebody who actually studied medicine, please. That's the way I think of it.
Marc Farzetta, always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a good time, my man. Thank you very much.
I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Okay, Marc Farzetta, and